My name is Murad. Been in crypto kind of 2016 onwards, but lately a lot of my attention has been on meme coins and trying to understand them at a deeper level. If you actually look at listing to date performance of every single listing on Binance, every single one of them is down on the year, except two. It is kind of a bit of a bitter truth, but I think we are not a technology first industry. We are an asset production industry, and we are a speculation industry. And the reason ETH became monetized is because Ethereum was a large casino. So what is a cult? A cult is simply a really strong community. And if you don't make poor people rich, or if you don't make middle-class people richer, you don't have a community. So I believe cult building takes at least a year. The big thesis I have right now is that being a cult is good, but it's not enough. And ultimately, it's not that I care about memes themselves. I am a community maximalist. Meme coins are not a vampire attack against crypto tech. Meme coins are a vampire attack against crypto tech tokens. But I think meme coins are a misnomer. It's not about the meme coins, it's about people. So what both meme coins and altcoins really are, they're just tokenized communities. So we're gonna see meme coins representing everything. The meme coins that are going to win are those that are gonna evolve into...
Awesome. So we're back in the podcasting studio today with Murad. Who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Murad. I've been in crypto. Well, first bought Bitcoin in 2013, but been more actively in crypto kind of 2016 onwards.
Okay.
I've been doing a bunch of different things in the space. On-chain analysis, writing, research, obviously a lot of trading, investing, building in DeFi. But lately, a lot of my attention has been on meme coins and trying to understand them at a deeper level, or at least attempting to. And trying to kind of make sense of what's going on in kind of different sectors and categories of crypto.
Okay, so you've been in crypto for quite a while. Were you curious about, or did you ever invest in kind of Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, some of the earlier kind of meme coins?
Yeah, I held a small bag of Dogecoin in 2017, kind of sold it early 2018. But it was like merely one out of like 9, 10 alts I held, like many of us have, right? And I also traded Doge once again in like 2021. During like the super spike, obviously, and dabbled in like the Doge, like dogs season, so to speak, in 2021 as well. But it wasn't until kind of early 2024 that I started to try to make sense of meme coins like from first principles rather than just trade momentum.
So obviously that's kind of why you've gained so much like mind share in the last really couple of months. Is this like all-in focus on memes and this like kind of sophisticated and elaborate thesis on like why memes are important and why memes are not a bubble really, and it's going to be this kind of like secular trend that we see going forward. How did you arrive at this thesis?
Yeah. So it's a combination of like 5 or 6 trends that are going inside the industry, but also 5 or 6 trends that are going like in the outside world. And we kind of need to combine both, I think. So let's start from the very beginning, right? In 2014, you had sort of like the first altcoin wave.
Right.
But it wasn't until kind of like Ethereum ICOs and 2017 in particular, where that whole ICO wave took altcoins to a much bigger stage, right? A lot of technological projects have made ordinary people millionaires. And that's how like the original fascination with altcoins started in the world. The big difference between then and now, and that is like the crux underlying the entire meme coin thesis, is the fact that you could buy decent tech alts back then at modest valuations, right? Right now, however, a lot of this has changed in this space. The problem is that any DeFi or infrastructure altcoin that's launching in 2024 is launching at ridiculously high valuations by the time the token is liquid, right? And so what usually happens is, and many people have already talked about this, a lot of the gains have become privatized, right? Essentially, the gains happen in private illiquid markets. You have like seed, pre-seed, seed, series A, series B, etc. And by the time that genuinely promising tech projects get listed, the retail investor only has access to them at 5, 10, sometimes even $15 billion valuations. So this leads to the second reason, which is if you actually look at year to date, or should I rather say listing to date performance of every single listing on Binance, every single one of them is down on the year, except 2, right? I believe there's like 45 or 50 of them, right? Okay. Only 2 are up, and they're up very modestly. They're up something to the tune of 15%. And one is WIF, which is a meme coin, and the other is Jupiter, which is meme coin trading infrastructure. Right? So everything else is down, no exceptions. And this in and of itself should send you a signal, because the parabolas, which roughly occur in crypto once every 4 years, and even the overall VC business model, it cannot exist without retail. It just can't, right? And so retail is starting to finally come to terms with the idea that the token is the product rather than the software, right? It is kind of a bit of a bitter truth, but I think we are not a technology first industry, at least not in the present and not in the foreseeable future. We are an asset production industry, and we are a speculation industry, first and foremost, technology second. And so if you actually look at what's going on, every single altcoin project in the world is actually working on 3 products. They're working on the software, they're working on the community, and they're working on the token. And you kind of need to understand and analyze each separately. Meme coins, on the other hand, they are what I jokingly refer to as post-software. And the market consciousness knows that it has seen Doge go to 95 billion. It has seen Shiba Inu go to 40, 45 billion. It has seen WIF go parabolic this year. It has seen Pepe go parabolic this year. SafeMoon, Saitama as the other examples, right? And so people know that it's theoretically possible for coins to go to ridiculous valuations with no product, which is proof, in my opinion, that the software or the platforms themselves were never the product. And even if you look at the darlings of VCs this year, I don't want to name any names, but I'm sure you'll understand which projects I'm referring to. They have revenues to the tune of $500 per day, but trading at $7 billion valuations, right? So obviously, they're not being valued like because of like cash flow or whatever.
Right.
They're valued off of their memetic premium. So this leads to yet another idea, which is, and this is a little bit controversial, but I nevertheless firmly believe in this. All altcoins have been meme coins all along. More specifically, we refer to them as meme coins with more steps. Even more specifically, if a token is not a store of value, or it doesn't distribute revenues, it is a meme coin, right? And we know that there's only very few examples of projects that distribute revenues, and there's only 2 or 3 tokens that can justifiably be described as stores of value, right? So if you put Bitcoin and debatably Ethereum and Solana aside, and a couple of like heavy buyback and burn or heavy distributing projects aside as well, then the entire remaining universe, which is like 99.99% of alts, a lot of the founders and VCs, they say, oh, it's regulations, that's why we can't like distribute revenues or whatever. But I think in most cases, it's simply not in their interest to do so, because if they're valued just based off of the memetic premium or narrative, it can justify like dreams and hopes and whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But because as soon as they start distributing narratives, investment banker types can come in and value it on Microsoft Excel, which is not something that founders want. Because if you can value it in Microsoft Excel, then you understand that the fair value of these projects is like 80 million. It's not 8 billion. You know what I mean? And so everything that's not cash flow heavy or is a money is a meme coin. And it actually doesn't matter. And so once you realize that the actual product is the community and the token rather than the software, you now can essentially analyze the entire, not just memes or tech, the entire universe of crypto from this perspective.
So, my dad kind of got curious about DeFi in like 2021, and it was because he saw stuff that resembled financial infrastructure that existed. And he said, okay, now there's some legitimacy to the industry, right? Like DeFi is a powerful narrative because it is some value proposition for crypto, right? So is your thesis, even if you're correct around like the new wave is memes, isn't it kind of bearish for like how many dollars and flows can come into the industry?
No, because this is what I think. Meme coins are not a vampire attack against crypto tech. Meme coins are a vampire attack against crypto tech tokens. See, there's a very big difference.
Right.
I'm sure you understand that a lot of DeFi can exist regardless of whether there's a token attached or not. So Uniswap is going to function fine whether there's a token or not. You know what I mean? And actually, this is the situation right now, that the best products in crypto don't require a token, but the best tokens in crypto don't require a product. So if you look at, so here's the thing, right? If you look at Pump Fund, Polymarket, Phantom, like the actual products that actually a lot of users use, they don't have a token. They don't need one, right? And if you look at the best performers, token-wise, such as Pepe with Popcat, Giga, since the beginning of the year, they don't have a product, see? So, which means that the software is a whole thing, and the tokens is a whole nother thing, right? So retail is finally coming to the idea that all of the tokens, regardless whether there's tech mumbo jumbo or is just a dog picture, all of the tokens are just tables at a grand casino. And so we're asking ourselves, right? Or I should rather say the trenches are asking themselves, why should we bid up your casino tables that are already $10 billion if we can run the whole journey from start, liquid from day one, organic from day one, actually build a community, actually allow poor people to get rich, middle class to become upper middle class. That's how you build cults, by the way. We can get into that later. But essentially, what meme coins are doing is they're recreating the ICO wave of 2016 and 2017. See, it doesn't matter if there's GitHubs or not.
Right.
What matters is human motivation. You need to look at the Maslow's pyramid.
So is it possible that this is just, you say meme coins are kind of the solution to the sickness. And the sickness is that retail investors can't buy tokens at reasonable valuations. So is it possible that the solution to this whole thing is like launch pads or new distribution mechanisms or something? Yeah.
So that's a great question. So you need to, let's think from like micro perspective, right? What does an average retail person actually care about in their life, right? Because it's usually that retail attention spike in the fourth year of a cycle, which has that like rapid price increases usually, right? Does a random retail person care about ZK Snarks? Probably not. Does a random retail person care about like blockchain becoming slightly faster or slightly more private? Probably not. I think what an average retail person cares about is 70% trying to make some money, 20% having fun, and 10% belong or just enjoy the journey, right? And none of these really have to do with either cash flows or software or technology. And ultimately, it's not that I care about memes themselves. It's that I see that that's where hardcore organic communities are building up. So ultimately, I am a community maximalist. And once you understand that token performance, in most cases, is a function of the passion of the community, that's when you realize that now then you have to ask yourself, where does community come from, right? I talk a lot about cults on a bunch of like videos, podcasts, and on Twitter. So what is a cult, right? A cult is simply a really, really, really strong community. And you need to ask yourself, A, why do you want to be a cult? And two, where do they come from? So why do you want to be a cult? A, in cults, you essentially have a supply restriction, because if it's a legit cult, you have people that are hardcore diamond-handed. So even if something goes 10x, they're just not going to sell. They just don't care. Like they're so obsessed that you're not going to have sellers.
Right.
You're not going to have dump whores, right? Second of all, That's on the supply side. On the demand side, you essentially, because people are so passionate, you have an army of schizos, so to speak, that are going to be working for your bags even while you're asleep. And last but not least, you get what we call free cult labor, which is engineers, designers, influencers contributing to the community, aka the token, for free. So essentially, in Silicon Valley speak, you're collapsing user acquisition costs to zero, right? Or to near zero, right? Second of all, where do they come from? It's very simple. If you don't make poor people rich, or if you don't make middle-class people richer, you don't have a community. Because, and this is why it actually doesn't matter if it's a meme coin or a technology project. And if you look at past cycles, the biggest outperformance have always been cults. BTC, I'm sure you would agree that it's a cult.
Right.
Ethereum and Solana are culty to some extent.
Yeah.
Ripple, very famous cult. Cardano, very famous cult. Even Luna and Hex, which had a bad ending, but they had a very culty communities, right? And in their local sort of window of outperformance, they went ballistic, right? And here is the issue. Why did they become cults? Because every single example that I've listed, oh, by the way, memes also, obviously Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, hardcore cults, right? In these examples, WIF as well, in these examples, retail could buy cheap. And this is where it all begins. Retail could buy cheap, and it's not an instantaneous wealth effect like airdrops. They ride the whole journey. Because when you have somebody who invested a few thousand become a millionaire, or even become like a six-figure person, they're gonna make their whole identity about that thing.
Right.
They're gonna literally quit their jobs. They're gonna be like, literally every waking hour is gonna be them either shilling, making media, making memes. By the way, it can be for tech projects too. It doesn't have to be memes, right? But we've seen this with Chainlink. Their community was very like memetically heavy and very like culty. And ultimately, it's about people and it's not about code.
So you mentioned airdrops here, and I think maybe a counter argument around like people say tokens don't make you rich anymore, but then they'll airdrop someone $10,000, right, or $100,000 in some cases, right? Like Jupiter is famous for recently. It's DeFi infrastructure. You're right, it is meme coin infrastructure to some extent, and it gave people a bunch of free money, but it's not necessarily part of your thesis. Why is an airdrop wealth effect different than a meme coin wealth effect?
So that's a great question. You need to look at the evolution of token distribution dynamically and not statically. Airdrops are a one-time event, and the supermajority of people, sooner or later, sell them for ETH, SOL, or stables. However, by the time a small cap cult becomes a mid cap, you have the majority of the supply concentrated in like hardcore believers. And that's why you need to kind of look at the evolution of the token distribution across time rather than as like a snapshot. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. And so when you have when you have something that's small but already culty, those people, like it's already their identity and their day-to-day activity to such a large extent that they can't even fathom selling it because they would literally be like shedding a part of their heart, right? And so you need to, like, if they've already 100x'd, they're going to keep holding until the 1000x. You know what I mean? And that's what causes these like extreme outperformers, because the supply is solved. Now you only have to solve for demand.
So you would be bullish on communities, and some people talk about it, but a community where it's like kind of static price for a while, and then it kind of starts to go hyperbolic, and it's like these core holders never cheated, and now they're gonna hold till, you know, for many multiples. Yeah.
So when you look at meme coin specifically, you actually, before you even call something a cult, you want to see at least like 2 or 3 like -70, -80, even -90% drops, because you need to treat these things like exams. And if they survive like 2 or 3 of them and ultimately make new highs, that means that the supply has shifted from non-believers to believers. And now you essentially have a large chunk of the supply in the hands of people that are not going to sell. And so these crazy high targets are no longer delusional, because like as demand comes in, it's just going to be like very long green candles that are not going to be counteracted by sells, right? And essentially a bunch of dumps allow true believers to accumulate cheaply during like the middle of the U curve, right? And so once you have these drops and then it makes new highs, that means the community has survived, and now it's much more battle tested, and now it's much more diamond handed, and the supply is largely in the hands of true believers.
Okay, so I want to get into this tweet that you have. It's called "Here is my crypto investing philosophy for this cycle in a nutshell," and it's just an iPhone screenshot of a note, but it has a lot. There's a lot to it, right? The first one is meme coins only. So the question here would be like, why just meme coins, and why am I not going to buy Solana, or why am I not going to buy Jupiter, or if Pump.Fund has a token or something?
Great question. So let's use Ethereum and Solana as examples. If ETH and Solana do well, then the top 3 or 4 memes on those chains are going to do even better. This is simple math. And we've seen these dynamics in previous cycles. We've seen this dynamic this year already. And so if you actually look at the first 3 pages of CoinMarketCap, the top 300 coins, crazy enough, there are only 42 coins that have outperformed BTC this year. A lot of people talk about this, how BTC has been the spotlight of attention.
Right.
This is because obviously like there's an overproduction of tokens overall, and the institutional money that does come in, it goes straight into the BTC ETFs, right? So there's only 42 coins that have outperformed BTC. The 13 out of the top 20 are memes. That alone should be telling you something.
Right.
And a lot of the ones in the middle is AI, obviously, and towards the tail end, you have a lot of centralized exchange tokens. But the AI and centralized exchange tokens have given you 50%, 100%, while memes have given you 1,000% or more, a lot of them, right? And this is showing me that that's kind of like high time frame. On low time frame, if you actually study whenever Bitcoin drops and then it bounces, what are the altcoins that bounce the hardest? It's been memes. It's been memes for the past like 40 weeks. And that is telling you both on high time frame and low time frame where the retail appetite already is. Now, if this cycle is going to be anything even remotely similar to past cycles, there's a certain trend. And the trend is the following. The trend is the sectors that outperform the hardest in year 3, which in this case is 2016, 2020, and 2024, right? These are the sectors that end up going ballistic in the towards the end.
Right.
So in 2016, you had like Ethereum, Verge, a couple of ICO examples, a couple of altcoin examples, like Ripple, etc. Right? They had a big pump in 2016, a correction, and then they had like 2 pumps essentially the whole year. The last year of the cycle, they had massive outperformers.
Right.
Very similar thing happened with kind of like DeFi, GameFi, Metaverse, top NFTs in 2020 and 2021. And I believe that if we have a similar trend this time around, which I believe is likely, or more likely than not, then the outperformers of 2024 are going to continue to be the outperformers of 2025. And there's structural explanations about this. One is simple momentum. Second is reflexivity. But third of all, at the smallest level, it's stories. It's again, we're coming back to people. Who have you heard of stories of people becoming rich this year? I'm sure you have, right? But statistically, the majority of them, at least for me, I know 3 or 4 people that have done this with Pepe. I know 3 or 4 people that have done this with WIF. And I know 3 or 4 people that have done this with like a couple of smaller meme coins like Giga, Bonk, as well as famous stories,
right?
Popcat, etc. Right? And by and large, on top of that, a lot of like the phantom screenshot, like non-scammy phantom screenshots that you do see that are real, came from memes as well, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Already in 2024, retail, like retail college students, retail taxi drivers, whoever, like their stories of like their cousin or their friend making it, statistically, it's likely to happen from memes, right? Which means that when they come, when like the second wave of retail comes, when the third wave of retail comes, they're going to try to mimic their cousin's behavior and their cousin's sector. And they're going to be like, oh, he made money through WIF? Let me also try to make money with memes. Let me find another meme. Yeah. And so multiply this by 1 million, you get these like structural momentum effects, right? And so I think that meme coins and probably to a lesser extent AI are going to be the big performers in 2025.
Okay. So it's kind of like a social, you're saying that this like first boom and then bigger boom is this social construct where it's like, I'm imitating what I've seen people be successful at in the last kind of like year.
A lot of people are trying to gaslight you into thinking that the March 2024 meme mania was like it, but I think that's like that's like 1/3 of it. And there's
that's like DeFi summer or something.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what it was. And I think that it was pretty much like meme spring, and 2025 is when we're going to see some parabolas.
So I was in Korea. Aptos is huge in Korea. They have a meme coin that the team says is going to do well, and they're going to push. It's called Gui Inu, I think. Kak Inu on Avalanche. There are meme coins outside of Ethereum and Solana, but you say Ethereum and Solana memes specifically. Why is this?
I think, let's be real, and just to be kind of concise and a little bit crude here, the business development teams of a lot of alternative L1s have realized that for their underlying token to do well, and this is, by the way, how Ethereum and Solana became so powerful. For the reason ETH became monetized and became like money number 2 is because Ethereum was a large casino. That's what it is. Ethereum is a large casino.
Right.
And the reason ETH became so big was because it was the unit of account during the ICO wave of 2016, 2017. And subsequently, it was the core unit of account during like the DeFi activities of 2020 and 2021. A lot of launchpads, obviously the NFT wave. But you can see here that in this giant ecosystem, right, ETH is the money. Essentially, ETH is a country, and then ETH is its currency, right? Solana right now is doing the same. It's the same exact story. But now, instead of like tech ICOs and DeFi, you have meme coins and to a lesser extent Solana DeFi, right? So what the dream of Aptos, Sui, Say, etc. investors is to become like money number 4, money number 5. Right. That's their dream. They know that for them to like have a nice return, they need to start to be seen by the world as like store value number 4. And the only way you achieve that is if you bring like investors or more likely like gamblers onto your chain, stimulate activity, meme coin rotations, maybe DeFi activity to a lesser extent now, but launch pads, tech alt kind of ICOs, etc. And in order for that to happen, you need to bring retail to your chain. And essentially, I believe they're using meme coins as like a user acquisition tool. But to be completely blunt, I'm only focused on Ethereum and Solana, because a lot of the early meme coins on those other chains I pretty much consider them corporate meme coins.
Right.
Because I think they're artificially pushed by, if not the foundation itself, then at least like kind of like the VC angel cabal around it, right? And to me, that's not the organic community.
So a counter argument here would be like Bonk, which was really airdropped to like Solana devs and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was definitely like foundation oriented, at least at the beginning. And I think most people think foundation pushed, up to, to date probably. Bonk, I don't think you necessarily talk about Bonk that much, but what do you think about that dynamic?
I think the Solana foundation, angels, VCs, large Solana holders, validators, miners, stakers, whatever. I think that whole ecosystem, very smart people. To what extent they created the Bonk parabola, I don't know. To what extent they created the WIF parabola, I don't know. They certainly had a hand in it. So it's a mixture between their initial sort of push combined with the retail like piling on later, right? But suffice to say that Bonk and WIF stories have catalyzed a whole sort of meme coin industry, at least this year, right? So it definitely helps. And this is essentially why the other L1s are trying to like recreate that.
Right.
But there's another factor that you need to consider, which is very important, which is what I call idle wealth. The reason I'm focusing on Ethereum and Solana is mostly because of idle wealth. What does idle wealth mean? It's actually pretty much the market cap of ETH and Solana respectively. So there's a lot of like DeFi investors on ETH and to some extent DeFi investors on Solana that denominate their wealth in ETH and Sol.
Right.
Like they have a lot of ETH and Sol, like millions and billions of it, right?
Yeah.
And so if you convince them to put 5 or 10% of their portfolio into memes, there's a lot of money there that can move to the local memes, right? The reason I'm ignoring the other chains, Tron, Telegram, or Ton, Sui, say Aptos, is because I don't think there's a lot of idle wealth there. TVL, essentially. TVL. There's not a lot of TVL, which means that like you need to like bring money. You need to either rely on like sex listings or like have people bridge, and that's a friction. You know what I mean? And it's best for like medium term momentum if there is wealth like already there.
Plus, you know, the chain is kind of an upper limit for whatever a meme's valuation is going to have. Like, I don't think we've ever seen a meme flip the chain itself. And there are meme coins that have run up to be much bigger than, you know, the valuation of, like Say or something, right?
I don't think there is technically a ceiling. I think that's just coincidence. Because, so I think the chain you're on matters until like $3 to $5 billion valuation. Because obviously like the idle wealth that I just referred to can push it faster. But there's some changes happening right now in the industry. I think most of the good memes are eventually going to be listed. Like the top 30 memes, I think are going to be listed on centralized exchanges. Pretty much all of them. At least Binance, I think. Not sure about Coinbase. Those guys are probably going to be more selective. But the good memes, I'm operating under the assumption that by the middle of 2025, all of the good memes, like the top 30 good memes, are going to be on most centralized exchanges.
Okay.
So that's one thing. The other thing is platforms like Robinhood, and we're actually seeing like a dozen others pop up, like Moonshot, Spot, Bags, I think, a bunch of others. They essentially allow you to buy memes with Apple Pay, and it's literally like the fastest thing I've ever seen. It's literally you just like click, and that's it, and you have the meme. It's so fast. It's like a 10-second affair. And essentially, if you look at what's happening under the hood there, it's money going from traditional bank accounts directly into memes. So they're skipping blockchains, gas, Ethereum, and Solana, and even stables altogether.
Right.
And so now, maybe it's not a one-cycle thing, but ultimately, I don't think the chain matters anymore. It used to matter in the past, but now I think I care more about the meme itself rather than the chain.
One thing you talk about is the market cap range that you're curious about, and you say 5 million to 200 million. Why? Why not lower? Why not higher?
Yeah, so I think that's the best range in terms of risk reward, because higher than that, I mean, yeah, you can look at like Whiff and Pepe, and I think they will still go much higher. But I think like there's even better risk reward to be found in those like mid caps. I don't go lower because much more high risk and much more PvP. And just very briefly, what Pump Fund is doing to the meme coin industry right now, it's accelerating the meme coin asset class to be split into two groups. One is what we call PvP. Other people call it hyper gambling.
Right.
And that's essentially like Pump Fund, like sniping, like very quick, like sniping, very quick bundling, very quick, like intra-week, even intra-hour trading, like very fast scalping, like trying to flip 10 Solana into 50 Solana like in a day or two, that type of thing, right? I'm not interested in that. Then you have the other side, which is what we call PvE, and which is what we call like cults, which is what we call like, essentially, for lack of a better word, trying to build the next Dogecoin. And it's genuinely like communities that want to take their meme coin to like 10, 20, 100 billion. Right. And I think we're going to see a couple of those. And I'm more interested in like long-term community building rather than quick flips.
So I think you've kind of already set out your portfolio of like what memes you're holding right now. What's your plan? You know, you're obviously bullish. You're bullish, you know, well into 2025 and perhaps beyond. What's your plan for like managing the meme coin supercycle?
Well, I am simply going to hold. And in full transparency, I plan to hold almost everything Well, no, I plan to hold everything until October, November 2025. At which point I will kind of reevaluate how frothy the situation is, and at that point I'll decide what to do. But I'm holding for at least the next 14 months.
And can you imagine deploying into new memes, or are you kind of set with your port?
I think 90% of my portfolio is set. I believe this is going to be a meme coin cycle. I believe this is going to be what we call a community super cycle. I believe what we're going to see what we call a belief super cycle. So in one of the communities that I'm in, we have a saying called "stop trading and believe in something," which is essentially a fancy way of saying that you should stop like short-term mentality, stop rotating, stop trying to time things, and start to believe. And by believe, we mean buy and hold and contribute to the community. Essentially, stop pretending you're a trader and start holding.
Right. If we would have been in May of 2023, I guess, and we were having the same conversation you would have had equal conviction in meme coins. You would have bought Pepe, you would have bought Doge, you would have bought Bonk, but you would have missed Popcat, Whiff, you would have missed a whole cohort of coins. You say you have about 90% of your portfolio kind of dedicated into existing communities. Why do you think that the established communities are winners, and that there won't be a whole, new cohort of memes?
That's a really good question. And I have a very good answer to that as well. So I believe cult building takes at least a year. And more importantly than that, you need to understand a concept which is going to be very important, and I think a lot of people are going to be talking about it in 2025. It's simply the rate of meme coin production per day. So when Pepe came out, it was pretty much the only coin. And then that summer, we saw like 100 new coins, right? It was relatively modest. Now, we're seeing what we're calling meme coin accelerationism, which is essentially, like today, you have 10,000 new memes per day. 3 months from now, you're going to have 50,000 memes per day. And I'm sure during like peak meme mania, we'll probably have 500,000 coins per day, right? I'm sure you can see that happening.
Right.
And so you can see that the risk reward changes dynamically as we get closer to the peak, right? Because Popcat, even when Popcat was coming out, I believe it was December 2023, it was still like, they were still making like 100 memes per day, which is much like the risk reward of trying to find winners there is better than today. Because with PumpFun and a bunch of other meme launchpads right now, you're seeing thousands of memes per day, right? And it's only going to get crazier and crazier, which means that the risk reward is for a retail investor to gamble in like smaller coins is going to be going lower and lower as well, which means that risk reward is dynamically going down in PvP coins and it's dynamically going up in cults.
Right.
And that's why I keep talking about cults literally every single day. It's because like, I would rather get a 50x, but even if it takes a year and a half of patient waiting, but with like 40% probability, rather than try to shoot for 1,000x with 1% probability. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember last year in January, kind of right when memes were kicking off, it was like you would go to Dex Screener, and the probability that 100K market cap coin would go to 1 million was higher than the probability that $1 million market cap coin would go to 10 million.
Yep.
And now it's kind of inverted actually, where it feels like a $10 million coin has a higher chance of going to $100 million than a $1 million coin has a chance of going to $10 million.
Exactly. And there's different parts of the meme coin market. I think the VCs, institutions, even sort of the crypto curious or meme coin curious fast money funds, they'll probably be buying like the biggest like blue chips if they ever dabble, right? Then at the other end of the extreme, you have like people trying to gamble on pump fund, turn 2 SOL into 20 SOL. I'm more in between, where I'm trying to find like undervalued meme coins that pretty much like tick off as much of that checklist of mine as possible.
Right.
And only like are missing 1 or 2, which are easily fixable and which have an extremely passionate community, but low price. I call this price to religiosity. Essentially, you want to find something which religiosity is super high, but price is low.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the cabal?
So there's no one cabal. Realistically speaking, there is like 12 to 15 mini cabals. There's different ones on different chains. There's different ones in different sectors. Unfortunate truth, and a lot of people don't know this, but actually almost all the meme coins are being produced by, like, all the meme coins that you see kind of like have this like big 1-2 day super spike early on. They're being systematically and industrially managed by the same 5 or 6 groups. I'm not going to name names, but if you know who they are. But the point is, my philosophy is simple. I avoid anything that even remotely smells like a cabal entirely. I'm as anti-cabal as it gets. I'm as anti-KOL as it gets, even though I'm kind of a KOL myself or whatever. I don't like that term. But every single one, or at least the 3 to 7 coins that I have the highest conviction in, they have no paid supply. They have no paid shills, no paid callers. I am against all of that. I think in fact, I look down on people that are involved in that in any way on both sides of the equation. And I only believe in hyper decentralized, very well distributed, as organic as possible, as bottom up as possible, as like fair launch as possible. And I want to see the entire price discovery process from as low a price as possible.
As you know, if the meme coin supercycle plays out and as it plays out, do you think edge will be eroded and more sophisticated actors will come in? And how do you plan to kind of manage that?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. I think what's going to happen to a lot of retail is they're going to come in, they're going to try to gamble, they're going to lose, and they're eventually going to be like, okay, the cults are the way to go, right? And I'm already telling them, skip the pain, skip the, like, there's 95% chance that you're not going to make money in the small caps, right? Because right now, like the cabal meme coin supply chain, people need to understand, right? I'm telling you straight up, 99% of people in the meme coin industry are scammers. They do not have your best interests at heart, especially influencers. 99% of influencers are scammers. They take a supply of coins, they shill it, and they dump it straight away. And obviously, it's the same thing that is. So the meme coin supercycle started as a counteract to like the VC stuff that are doing this at a larger scale. And now these guys are doing this at a smaller scale with meme coins, but it's the same mathematical formula. You know, it's the same thing, the same abstract formula. So you want to find coins that check. So you want to build a checklist of what makes a real, true community, and you want to be investing money in those that tick off as many of those boxes as possible. Again, very good like Gini coefficient, very well distributed. In the cabal coins, you can, if you study them on chain, you see like they either have like too much of the supply concentrated in the like the top 1%, or they have these like fake wallets that are all distributed like small equal amounts.
Like a really long tail.
But and the cabal is getting smarter. They're trying to scam retail better now. But if you actually like study all the demographics, like 100 to 900, 9,000 to like 19,000, all of those, right? You will see that there's like gaps, which means that the cabal didn't hire data scientists to like fake the distribution properly. They're lazy. You know, scamming and laziness go hand in hand. But essentially, find true communities, find cults, and invest in those, because you're not going to get rugged, and just join the journey. And the big thesis I have right now is that being a cult is good, but it's not enough. You want to find something more. And people ask me, what's after cults? What's after memes? So I have a few theories about that. I think we're going to see a transition from jokes to serious memes. Which means that if you tell somebody meme coins right now, like on the street or whatever, or even in crypto, they're going to see like, oh, Doge, whatever, like dogs and cats, right? But I think we're going to see a transition away from like jokes to serious stuff. We're going to see a transition away, to some extent, we're going to see a transition away from animal coins to like more unique stuff. But beyond that, if you look at meme coins thus far, it's like funny pictures and dogs and cats. But I think meme coins they're a misnomer. It's not about the meme coins, it's about people. So this applies to alts as well, by the way. What both meme coins and altcoins really are, they're just tokenized communities. They're communities with a kind of a tokenized financialized layer on top. So we're going to see meme coins representing everything. And you need to run a thought experiment and because this is what you'll see in 2025. You're gonna have a meme for every word, number, sentence, concept, country, city, color, animal, person, literally everything. Like literally every conceptual object. And you need to ask yourself, in that environment, what is gonna fly? Well, like what is gonna do well? And you need to think about it from a game theoretic perspective. 70% of people are probably going to lose money gambling. But what will the 30 kind of like smarter thinkers do? And I think they are going to, what we're going to see is we're going to see like 1 billion coins, literally 1 billion coins, but we're only going to see like 100 like legit real meme coins. Then within those 100, you're going to see like 25 cults. And then within those 25, you're going to see like 10 that are going to like become proper brands. And then if you move higher up the pyramid, and this is like my theory, you're going to have 3 or 4 coins that what I call are movements. Or almost like mission coins. And those are going to do the best because now instead of just having like an animal picture, you have an inspiring philosophy. So the next step is like NFTs, they tokenized art. Now we're going to, meme coins, they're pretty much like tokenized like memes into a token. The next step is tokenizing philosophy, tokenizing even more abstract things like movements, like missions, like thoughts and beliefs. That's why I call it a belief supercycle. And you want the meme coins, quote unquote, meme coins that are going to win are those that are going to evolve into not just cults, but movement coins. And essentially the winners are going to be those that trigger, like let's assume that everything is a cult. Who wins among cults, right? You want to find the ones that are going to trigger the most positive emotional reaction for people. Why? Because essentially you want those people to become like hardcore hustlers and believers in the coin.
Excellent. Well, we'll wrap there. The Memecoin Supercycle with Murad, the Belief Supercycle with Murad. Thanks so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.